Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, evolutionary healer, and I have with me Gudrun Eichhorst, and you will definitely want to hear her story and how she has empowered not only herself, but she's empowering clients who have recently divorced or in the process of divorce. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, thanks for having me, Linda.
Absolutely. So tell all of us a little bit about your story and, how you got started in the coaching that you're doing.
Sure. Well, as you said, I work with women who are going through a divorce. I'm a certified divorce and life coach. And so I help women who are struggling emotionally when they're going through divorce, who feel overwhelmed or they feel stuck. And I help them to find closure after their divorce, and so that they can move on, they find new joy in their new life. And and I come also from experience, like I've been through my own divorce 11 years ago. So I know, what it entails and how many losses there can be and how difficult it can be on so many different levels. So I started to work, originally I started to work more as an EFT practitioner and matrix reimprinting practitioner with people with trauma and grief and anxiety. And then it became more and more clear that I wanted to specialize and work with women who have the experience of a divorce, a separation, and because that was my own experience as well. And for me, it's also such an opportunity, really, divorce and separation, because you can really reinvent yourself and become, really get in touch with who you are, and shed a lot of stuff that holds you back. And so it's even though it's very painful to go through a divorce or separation, but it's also a huge opportunity to get in touch with who you really are, and find that joy in life that you might have never experienced before.
Right. Yes. And I've been through a divorce, and I say I had a 33-year starter marriage. It was very long, stretched out. It was interesting. And I read on your website, you have such a great website, Women After Divorce. Is that right? .com?
That's right. Yes, that's my website.
Mm-hmm. And you do such a great job of explaining EFT, explaining the matrix repatterning, as well as, what does it mean to be emotionally abused. So that was interesting. And, that's good for all of us, because we can easily be emotionally abusive to others and not realize it. So I highly recommend checking out her website, womenafterdivorce.com.
It's actually .ca.
It is .ca. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm in Canada, so that's just to be aware of that.
Yes, absolutely. Womenafterdivorce.ca. Awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about kind of that you started to get a little more focused on who you're serving, and you started to really niche down, and is that when you really found clients being more attracted to your business, easier to attract clients when you got more specific in who you were serving and why?
Well, that's a really good question. It actually, I already worked with women who had the challenge of a divorce or separation before I decided to really focus on that. So, and it was just really, that was just a natural then to kind of switch. And I became really, I wanted to, because when you work with people on a very wide kind of variety of issues, I really wanted to kind of zoom into a very specific challenge and difficulties for people. And so I went a little bit, and it also kind of was in line with the soul searching. I kind of had a period of soul searching where I was also questioning, am I going to continue the work that I'm doing? And coming out of that, it just became really clear that I was drawn to work with women that are going through divorce because of my own experience. So it just became really, really clear. And then the transition was quite interesting, because what happens when I go through transitions, for some people it's really kind of easy and it just kind of blends over. But for me, it never really works like that. I don't know why, but it kind of, things kind of fell away. Like other clients wouldn't really come that much anymore. So it wasn't really like suddenly I had all these people coming to me because I decided to work with divorce issues. So it's just, that's my personal style, I guess, that just something comes to an end and that kind of falls away. And then I slowly build up the new life and the new clientele. That's kind of my own style.
Yes, we all have our process, right? For me, for writing a book or something, it's like all these little pieces that have come in. I'll like lay them out on the floor and see what the structure is. I never start with structure and then put, things into a structure. I just have all this stuff and go, okay, so what is the structure? What's the common thing here? And I actually had a class in college, in junior college, and I was getting maybe C's on my papers, and I ended up being a straight A student in that writing class because she kind of had that attitude too. She was like, go to the library and brainstorm, not brainstorm, but yeah, it was like brainstorming. But she just said, as the thoughts came, just write them down, whatever thoughts were coming to you. They didn't have to be related. They didn't have to be anything you'd put in your paper. If a cute boy walked by, she goes, write cute boy, just keep you focused. You can cross that off later. And then she'd say, look for, 3 things that, kind of could go together, and then those 3 things were your topic sentences, and then you just added a few sentences under each of those, and your paper was done. And it was the coolest thing, and it was so my style. I loved that. So it's always so cool to run into somebody who gets you, which you do. You get us women who have come through divorce or are coming through divorce, and I think that's I know that that's very empowering. And my background, special ed, and my kids were very challenging. And so to meet another mother with kids who were very challenging was so therapeutic, because it was like the first step in healing, if you will, is understanding, having someone get it. So it's been wonderful. My husband's had open heart surgery, and I'm the caregiver, right? So I have access to counseling because he's a veteran. And so I just love being able to go to my counselor, and he's just this guy who he understands. Doesn't matter what I say, he can relate to it. And that's just so it's freeing as well to just be able to say whatever and have someone on the other end go, yeah, I get that, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's huge, Linda. I'm glad that you say that, because it's that I also run a group program for women. And so when, part of that is the sharing, really just coming together, have a safe space. And, when you share that other people, there's no judgment, just being accepted the way how you are. And it's safe to share those feelings that you might not share with anybody. Especially, there's still a lot of shame around divorce, and, this whole idea of having failed. And so you need a space where, as you said, somebody else understands and can relate and validate your experience. And that in itself it's a huge healing. It's such a huge healing. It's because there can be such an isolation in divorce. Other people, well, first of all, you might not want to really, share anything. And if you do, other people can't relate, right? Especially if they haven't gone through it. They might really care and love you and everything, but they don't get it. They haven't had that experience. They haven't felt that kind of pain. And so to have a group, or at least one person who can just listen and just, validate, acknowledge, and that'll help you to acknowledge your own pain, your own experience, your own struggle, and say, yes, this is real. I'm not just making up, I shouldn't feel this way, or I should already, feel better and have moved on, and all these ideas, right? but no, this is real, and it's okay to be in pain. That's to validate that. So yeah, when you said that, to have going to a counselor, a person who can understand, who understands and validates what's going on for you, what's real for you, what's your truth, and just allow that to be.
And it's nice when that counselor is also a coach, so to speak. So yeah, that knows how to really move you forward, and and is someone that has been through that process, like you were saying. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's a very important work that you're doing. And yeah, that whole divorce thing there's so many layers of it, so many levels of it. It really is important to know that, like you said, I'm not alone, and I'm not, like that, take that shame out. That's such a good point. As the Baptist Sunday school teacher, getting a divorce, right? I know that's what kept me in my marriage longer than I ever should have been. And yeah, and when someone on the other end isn't going to do the work, and you're the one running around trying to fix it, so to speak, it gets old. So yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about what you have on your website about emotional abuse, and maybe a little bit so that the listeners and viewers can recognize, if they're being emotionally abused or if they're being emotionally abusive.
Yeah, that's a really big topic that is very close to my heart because of my own experience, but also because it's, sadly enough, it happens a lot to a lot of people. And I have, women ask me, so what is emotional abuse, and what does it look like? What does it feel like? And because you're not bruised externally, right? You don't see anything on the external. And very often these individuals that are abusive psychologically, emotionally, to their spouse or to the children or to anyone, they can be extremely charming on the outside. They can be really like, people come to mind immediately where, they have status. So, but if they close the door, if they're at home, they're not visible in the community, something completely different happens. And so some of the things that, some of the signs, and there's several, of course, there's many. Some of the signs are, contempt. Somebody, if as you said, that you need two people to make a relationship work. If you're the one who puts in, and also to cuts back on who you are and ignores your values in the process of it, right? You get lost, actually. There's nothing left of you at one point anymore because you're trying to accommodate, trying to fix it, especially for women, because that's supposed to be our role, right? To take care of the family, the relationship. And so we take this on, and it's being ingrained in us. And so if it doesn't work, there's such a pressure to make it work because it's our responsibility. Somehow that kind of got stuck in our, our system. The shame and the sense of failure is huge. But as you said, you need to have two people who take responsibility. So one thing is if you work with somebody, if you're in a relationship who, with somebody who cannot take responsibility, who blames you for how he or she might feel, you're responsible for his or her happiness. And so that's already a sign where, this is not healthy. You cannot work with somebody, you cannot bring a relationship to fruition and to blossoming if you have somebody who is pointing the finger always back to you, right? So that's one sign. And so that was certainly true in my relationship. And then the other one is for sure is contempt, to feel superior. If you have somebody who feels superior to you, is talking down to you, is, preaching to you, all of these things, so then you are the one who is less. And it's being, you're being, programmed in a way that something's wrong with you, and you're the one who's crazy. And so those are the signs. Of course, verbal abuse, to really call you names, calling you stupid, all of this, shouting at you. But the tricky part, it's not always like that. And this is where it's very confusing for a lot of women, and some men, of course. But statistically speaking, it's mostly women who are, there's a big part, a huge amount of percentage of women who are being abused. So when that happens, when you're being talked down and when your self-esteem is being dismantled, right? And the problem is also that it's not always bad. There are periods where it's really nice. Suddenly it's being nice again and kind, or sort of, so you have periods which are also enjoyable. So that really gets confusing because your hopes get up again. Oh, maybe things are going to change and he's going to change and we are going to be, as happy as we used to be in our, first period of the relationship. And so then you have the seesaw, hot and cold situation, which is really difficult and confusing for people then to say, okay, enough is enough, because it feeds into that dream all the time again.
And the two older sisters like, he's weird. And the younger one is like, well, his beard's not so blue. So, of course, he ends up marrying her because she's the easier of the three. And he's about to go on a trip for a month, and he leaves her the keys to the castle. And he says something like, don't use this key. There's a door that this key opens. Don't open that door, or something like that. And her sisters come over and she tells them, and they're like, wonder what door that is. We don't need to open it, but, let's go find it. They made a big game of it. And they stick the key in the door and turn it, and it opens, and there's all the skulls of his dead wife. This huge pile of skulls, right? And then the key starts to bleed, and she's like, oh no, and she puts it in her pocket, right? And she was going to wipe off the door, and her apron starts to bleed, and then it bleeds onto her dress, and she's like, oh, like he's going to find out now, right? So she goes up to her room, and then she stuffs all of it into her armoire, and it bleeds all over her gowns, and she's like, oh, I am in so much trouble, right? And then he comes home and he wants to kill her, and she's like, gets running around to escape and telling him clever things, and all of a sudden her brothers come riding in, and it's all about the female psyche and having our male side coming in and making sure that we're safe and basically rescuing ourselves. And that story is just wild, but it is so much of that abuse that we are talking about, and he's so charming, and then there's this really weird undercurrent. And, women who are physically abused, especially when there's an alcoholic situation or mental health situation, it's like, well, he had a bad day, so that's why he hit me. He normally wouldn't hit me, but he had a bad day. Or his mother's dying, so, he just hit me more this month, but, I'll get over it, and this will pass, and he'll be back to who I, like you said, fell in love with. And I think bipolar is really a crazy one because, it's like they are so amazingly charming, and then they're like rawr, and then I used to work in a psychiatric day treatment center with little kids, and they're so sorry and very loving, after their episodes. So that's another one that women, I think, have a hard time getting away from. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we forgive them, right? It's so then to learn, this is a big part, I think, which is when I talk about opportunity after the divorce or during the separation, is that we have the opportunity to learn how to take care of ourselves on many levels. First of all, physically you have to figure out, maybe you have to get a new job, or we have to get a job at all, and the whole financial picture, right? So you really have to learn to stand on your own feet in so many ways, but also emotionally to really, so instead of looking for somebody else for validation, acknowledgement, respect, love, of course. So well, it's me. It's only me left, right? So we have the opportunity to learn to, okay, so how can I take care of myself without, trying to lean or get something from somebody else? I need your love. I need your respect. I need your understanding, all of those things, and learn to say, well, I need my respect first. And so that's where it comes to, when I learn to respect myself first and honor who I am, then I will not allow anybody to be disrespectful to me or abuse me or just walk all over me. Even if the person says sorry and apologize, that's nice. It's lovely words. But then, next week we'll go back to the same old. So there's no, it's not real. So we have to look at that. But if I learn to have that inner core respect, and I know I deserve to be treated with kindness and with gentleness, then I'm able to say, no, this is not working for me. This is not good. And then we not only serve ourselves, we also serve the other person, because the other person gets the message. He or she might not want to hear it, or might not be able to take that opportunity and change something, but at least the opportunity is there, and it's for them to decide what to do with it. But if we let other people walk over us, we are actually not serving them. We're not serving us, obviously, but we're also not serving them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we are not, it's like little children, they need these boundaries. And then, of course, if there's mental issue, then it means you have to look into this. You have to take responsibility and take care of yourself there. But if I'm silent and I accept this treatment, then it gives the signal that it's okay.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you.
So,
yeah, it's an interesting mix.
Pardon me?
It's an interesting mix. It's a dance, and like you said, and I just taught this the other night, you are 100% responsible for yourself. And like you said, when you love yourself, then you know that others are to love you. And so it is a female growth process coming out of that innocent stage, so to speak, and not having to be nice all the time, the nice girl. We're supposed to be nice and polite, and be so dedicated to our husbands, and we lose ourselves then in our husbands, So being able to hold your own and know what your boundaries are, you really do need to be loving yourself and doing your self-care. It is interesting how energetically, when you're doing that, your vibration changes. You're no longer running the victim energy that attracts the predator. And I really think in all marriages we can attract the predator. There's a predator in all of us. And so when we're giving off that energy of nobody messes with me because I love myself and I have my boundaries, and you get a different person around you as well. So it's interesting.
Absolutely, and that's really important to realize that. So then, many people can go from one relationship to another, and it's the same patterns, attracting the same people again and again and again. And so, why is that? So maybe it has something to do with me, right? and then to change something internally. So what's actually my relationship to myself? And so I'm helping women to become aware of what is the relationship I have with myself, so that I can, when I change that internal dynamic, the internal life, the mental conditioning, then, as you said, the vibration is a different vibration. It's a different inner world. Then the outer world will respond accordingly. Then I break that cycle, and that could be a cycle that's generationally. I mean, when you look at, what's being handed down to women from, thousands of years of, how to serve, and what our role is as a mother, as a wife, all of these things, as a daughter, and so it's a lot of energy behind it, a lot of conditioning, and to break that and to find a new role, if you like, a new identity. So that's the opportunity. When I talk about opportunity, that's an opportunity to break that cycle and really step into your own power of who am I actually as a woman, and then attracting that partner to you because of, then you have equals. You have a relationship of two equals. And that's a whole different world. And that's when it gets exciting, but first comes the relationship you have with yourself, and to learn what does it look like to love myself. It sounds lovely, but what does it mean? How does it look like? And so to learn that, they're very practical steps, and it doesn't have to be theoretical.
So absolutely, it's just so important, and it is the different stages of the female psyche. That first stage I teach is victim predator. Little girls, they come in and their life is just happy. They want to dance everywhere, dance on the coffee table, dance in front of company, and then, the parents are like, well, not in front of company, or not in front of company ever, or not on the coffee table, and the filters start, the conditioning starts. And I love that word that you use. And then we're supposed to be nice, well, guess what? Most sexual predators, most people who have been sexually abused have been sexually abused by someone in their family, the father, the grandfather, the uncles, the cousins. It's pretty classic. And so we're supposed to be nice and loving, and the other thing with sexual abuse is that it feels good, and yet even very young children know there's something creepy about it, and it's not okay. And obviously the person doing it knows it, and I know they're picking up that vibration as well. So yeah, that's what I call stage 1, the victim predator. And then stage 2, it's kind of like it's everybody else's fault. And so we can have a predator and be blaming us, but then we can turn around and we don't know who we are, and we're not owning it, so then, well, that's that other person, that's not me. And we're so wounded we can't hear anything negative about ourselves as well. And then it gets back to, all right, Loverly, and mine is www.evolutionaryhealer.com, and I have a Unstoppable You 10 tips for you as well. So very cool, and thank you again.
Thank you, Linda. It's always a joy talking with you.
It's been fun.